A year into the war in Gaza, the battlefield still rages across the Middle East as Israel continues to deplete Hamas's capabilities to its south, while it takes on an even larger foe, Iran. This month, Tehran launched another volley of missiles against Israel in retaliation for the Jewish nation seemingly doing the impossible, virtually neutralizing the threat posed by Hezbollah militants in the north. And front and center for much of this period has been New York Post columnist Douglas Murray. So Douglas, you were in Israel almost immediately after October 7th. You've watched this war. How is it possible that this war in Gaza and across the region is still going on a year after the Hamas attack on October 7th?
Well, because Israel hasn't yet won. And the tragedy of Israel in recent years has been that it has been condemned largely by international pressure on the Israeli government to have a war in Lebanon against Hezbollah every 15 to 20 years and a war in Gaza every 2 to 3 years. And that's not sustainable for any country. And repeatedly since the withdrawal from Gaza in 2005, Hamas has done these rounds of rockets against Israel. Occasionally it becomes so impossible that the Israelis have to go in. Then they're pulled back by the international community, they have to go back in again. Hezbollah rearmed from the 1980s, rearmed after the 2006 war, where I was also there. And the international community did nothing to abide by its own resolution, which was meant to prevent the build-up of weaponry of Iran's army Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. So, as I see it, what's happening is the Israeli government has realized they have to be allowed to win. Mm-hmm. And that's why they've ignored a lot of the advice, if not most of it, very useless advice, it has to be said, that's come from the American government and other allies abroad, who've continuously said, don't go into the Hamas stronghold of Rafah, let's have a ceasefire, and stop you winning against Hezbollah. And the Israelis this time have clearly been, no, our people have to be allowed to live in the south of Israel, they have to be allowed to live in the north of Israel. Israel cannot be reduced to being this tiny, even tinier country.
Right. An island within an island.
Yeah, and what's more, the point we're talking now, it seems they are winning. Iran is so reduced now, its proxy in Hamas almost totally destroyed, its proxy Hezbollah almost totally destroyed, leadership completely gone within 2 weeks. And Yemen, sort of third-rate proxy, nevertheless firing serious ballistic missiles at Israel.
Yep.
They're being taken out as well. That's why Iran is reduced to firing ballistic missiles from its own territory. And they must know what that means, which is that this clarifies the conflict. And the conflict was always this. It wasn't a war against Hamas, it was a war against the Iranian revolutionary government in Tehran. The question that we ask ourselves in America, we ask ourselves in Britain, if we had to fight like our grandparents did, would we be able to step up to the challenge? Would we be up to the challenge that the greatest generation answered? This is a question Israelis had as well. Maybe the young Israelis have become weak. Maybe they've become too used to just partying in Tel Aviv. They want to be on Instagram and TikTok. This young generation of Israelis stepped up to the moment. I've seen them in action from the south of Gaza to the hills tops overlooking Lebanon and Syria. They have been tested, and they have stood up to the moment magnificently. And Britain, America, any other Western country should be so lucky as to have a generation like this.